What if the difference between a forgettable story and one people cannot stop thinking about is not talent, but angle? Because when most writers sit down to create, they focus on what happens. But the real magic is often in how you approach the idea. Today, we are looking at 5 fascinating creative writing angles every writer should know, angles that can make your stories sharper, more original, and way more emotionally sticky. And the best part, these are not abstract theories. They are practical tools you can use in your next scene, short story, novel, or even your social media writing. First, the unexpected perspective. This is when you tell a story from a viewpoint the audience does not immediately expect. Not just the villain's side for the sake of it, but a perspective that changes the meaning of the story. Mechanically, this works because perspective controls empathy. Whoever we are inside of becomes the emotional center of the narrative. So if you write from the point of view of a child, a janitor, a security guard, or even the person who caused the disaster, you can completely reframe a familiar situation. For example, instead of writing about a haunted house from the family's perspective, write it from the ghost's perspective, and now the haunting may actually be grief, protection, or loneliness. That shift alone can create instant curiosity. Second, the what-if escalation angle. This is one of the simplest and most powerful storytelling tools. You take an ordinary idea and push it one step further, then one step further again. What if you could hear people's thoughts? What if you could only hear the thoughts they were trying hardest to hide? What if one day everyone could hear yours? That is the mechanism. Escalation creates momentum. It forces the reader to keep asking, okay, but what happens next? This is especially useful in brainstorming because it turns vague ideas into plot engines. If you are stuck, take any concept and ask, what is the most interesting consequence? Then, what is the worst consequence? Then, what is the consequence of that? Suddenly, you have a story. Third, the contradiction angle. People are fascinating when they are not fully consistent. A character who is brave but terrified, kind but manipulative, brilliant but deeply avoidant. Why is this useful? Because contradiction makes characters feel human. Perfect people are hard to believe, mixed people are recognizable, and contradiction does not just apply to characters, it works for themes too. A story about freedom that feels claustrophobic. A romance that starts with suspicion. A victory that feels like a loss. Concrete example, a detective who can solve any case except the one involving their own family. That internal contradiction gives you tension built right into the premise. Fourth, the small detail with huge meaning. This is where a tiny object, habit, or sentence carries emotional weight far beyond itself. A cracked watch, a voicemail never deleted, a hand moving instinctively to an empty ring finger. The mechanism here is compression. Instead of explaining everything directly, you let one detail do the work of a whole paragraph. That makes writing feel richer and often more powerful in practice. This is incredibly useful in scenes because it gives the reader something to notice. And when readers notice, they participate. They start connecting the dots themselves, which makes the experience more memorable. Finally, the reveal that reframes everything. This is the angle that makes readers want to go back and reread. It is when a story reveals information that changes the meaning of everything we thought we understood. A classic example is when we realize the narrator was not being honest, or when the monster was actually trying to warn people, or when a character's apparently random behavior makes perfect sense after the final reveal. Why does this work? Because the brain loves pattern completion. When a reveal recontextualizes earlier scenes, it gives the audience the satisfying feeling that the story was always deeper than it first appeared. But the key is fairness. The best reveals do not come out of nowhere, they feel surprising but earned. So if your writing ever feels flat, do not just ask, what should happen? Ask, what perspective would make this feel new? What if I escalated the idea one more step? What contradiction makes this character human? What tiny detail could carry emotional weight? And what reveal would reframe the whole story? These 5 angles will not just help you write more creatively. They will help you write in a way that makes readers feel like they have discovered something. And that feeling, that little spark of surprise and recognition, is what keeps them reading. 5 fascinating creative writing angles every writer should know is just one small part of creative writing. If you are interested, our full free creative writing course is linked in the description.